What's up, guys? Welcome back for another one. Today we're going to continue to dial in my 22 Street Bob with a little help from the good people at Legends. Now, before we open up the shock and take a good look at it, let's see what we're going to use to swap these shocks out. All right, this is everything you're going to need. First, a torque wrench. I also recommend some anti-seize lubricant for the bolts that hold in the shock absorber itself. For the shock absorber itself, you're going to be using a long T50. This is for the rear bolt. For the front bolt, you're going to be using a 3/4 socket. For the seat bracket, which you're going to take off, you're going to be using a T27. And for the rear bracket that goes over the shock, you're going to be using a 3/16 hex. And that's really all you need. So I'll show you what to take off on the bike itself, and we'll pull out the old shock and compare the two. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take these two bolts off. This will just give you a little bit of flexibility when you take the shock out itself. Also, remember, you want to jack up the bike, get the rear wheel off the ground. Probably can't see the jack from here, but I've got it. Lift it up so the rear wheel is not touching the ground. Takes the compression off the shock. Using my T27, I'm going to remove these two bolts here. Using my 3/16, I'm going to take these bolts here and pull this bracket off. Using a 3/4 socket, I'm going to loosen this bolt up front. And now, using a long T50, I'm going to remove the rear shock bolt. But before I do that, there is a pinch bolt right here that you need to use an Allen key on. All right, so things escalated kind of quickly. It turns out you cannot access that little pinch bolt right there without moving the fender on the Street Bob. So what I did was removed the 4 bolts on each side, took out that inner bracket and just pitched it up for now. And that will allow me to reach that bolt right in there. From right in there, you're going to use your long T50. I don't know if you guys can see that. So yeah, just loosen up that pinch bolt. You don't have to take it all the way off, and then you should be able to take off that rear bolt that holds in the shock on that side. All right, so let's compare the Revo-A. This is the 13-inch to the OEM shock, which is, I believe, a 12.5-inch or a 12-inch shock. So yeah, you can kind of see the difference up top. You've got these bottom two lined up. This is your rebound setting, and when you install it, you want this facing up, facing the top, so you can access this easier. They also give you this tool, this spanner tool, and this is how you adjust your sag once you get it on the bike with the help of somebody else. And we'll get into that in a minute here, but I can tell you, stock shock is a lot heavier than this shock. So there is some weight savings to be had too, along with the performance of the shock itself. So let's put this back on the bike. I'll show you how to line everything up and tighten it all down. All right, so I gently placed the shock in there. You may have to lift the rear end to line up the hole for the bolt in the rear. Again, I recommend just putting a little anti-seize on here. It's just the pivot point, so can't hurt. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on there. I realized I tightened this down first, so I'm gonna have to loosen this up. Again, 75 for the rear. $80 foot-pounds for the front. Now we can tighten these two bolts back up. And reinstall the rear fender. All right, now we're going to set the sag. So the first thing you have to do with the wheel still suspended is measure from the center of the axle to the top of the fender. I'm going to use the very bottom of this sissy bar here as my reference point here. So I'm looking at about 14.5 inches. So now what you do is you lower it, put the rider weight on it, and then you measure it again. There should be a difference of about 1/4 inch to, I believe, like 1 1/4 inch, 1.5 inches. So it all depends on, you know, how stiff you want the sag. So I'd be happy at least at first with about 1 inch difference. So I'm going to lower the bike. If you can see, I did not put that bracket on yet, only because this is where the spanner holes are, and once you put that bracket, it's hard to access. So we'll do that last. I'll put the seat back on, take it off, and have somebody help me out measuring the sag. All right, guys. First of all, can we admire that wheel gap there? So, took it out for a couple rides, very impressed with the handling and the comfort over stock. My current settings are 3/4 inches of sag and 3 clicks from close for rebound, which is good for 200 to 350 pounds. And I'm just going to keep riding the hell out of this thing and give you guys a long-term review at some point, but really happy with the purchase. Highly recommend it. And you guys know, if you like videos like this, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next one.